K trying to get in there, failed. The male team with the ball once more. And K falls over as he tried to stop it. Back with the male team. And knocked out. I'm with Coach Curtis Morton Jr. And there have been some issues recently, and we'll be talking about those. But even before we get into that, where did this idea come about in terms of you getting this female team together and starting this Queen City Girls team?
Well, actually, I always wanted to do some coaching. I wanted to start at the grassroots level with the younger players. But some girls approached me about starting a team. I was reluctant at first. They really started pressuring me. They used to come around hard times training, and I saw the commitment and the dedication, and I decided if they're showing the interest, then I should not be the one to prevent them from getting an opportunity to play. And that's how the Queen City team was birthed.
Some of them, I guess, would never have played at any level. So it must have been a little tough coaching, especially from scratch.
Yeah, so the original group of girls, maybe about 4 of them would have been playing football before. To get a team together, what we did was we basically just went around and asked girls if they're willing to try and learn the game of football. So we got a few girls who have never played, who didn't know anything about football, and they're doing extremely well.
Speaking of extremely well, in your years of competing, I think this is what, the second year?
Yes.
Second year, I think you would have done pretty well in the Kitts-Nevis Football Association leagues. You want to tell us about some of the achievements so far?
Sure. The girls competed for the first time ever in the Elvis Star Brown Women's League. That was last season. That was the 2022-2023 season. And we placed 4th. We got to the Final 4. Unfortunately, we didn't win any games in the Final 4. But just to get to the Final 4 in our first ever tournament was a huge achievement for the girls. I'm very proud of them, and they did really well.
What has transpired since that? Because then this would be their second season. I think they would have played a couple of matches. But there seem to have been some issues with the SKNFA and Queen City. Could you kind of expound on that?
Yes. Unfortunately, for some reason, and this is the way I see it, this is my opinion, for some reason the SKNFA doesn't seem to me to have a keener interest in teams from Nevis, because I could tell you even Hard Times, who I'm a part of, had some issues and were not able to play this season. Bath had some issues in the Premier League, and Bath also, the female team and the youth team who normally compete weren't in the leagues either. So there were some issues with the teams from Nevis. I could speak specifically to Queen City's issues. One of the issues was finance, in that the SKNFA indicated earlier this year that they would not be financing any sort of travel for the teams from Nevis.
And that was done last year?
That was done last year. So we were accustomed to getting travel assistance. Now, it went as far as they weren't going to provide not even ground transportation in St. Kitts. So even if we managed somehow to pay the boat, we would have still had to pay a bus to get the girls from the pier to the venue, which I find was a bit intense.
Especially after it would have been done in year 1.
Yes, because the bus was always provided for us in St. Kitts. So that was a huge issue. The SKNFA had some kind of conversation with the NIA. The NIA decided to fund some of the traveling. So the traveling per se wasn't coming down closer to a tournament time, wasn't so much of an issue again, because the NIA would be taking care of it. I also want to point out that the SKNFA scheduled all our games to be played in St. Kitts. The only game we didn't have in St. Kitts was the game scheduled to play against Bath, which would be the 2 Nevis teams. Every other single game was scheduled for St. Kitts.
And that was not the case last year?
That was not the case. So, the next issue we had was the timing issue. Every single game we had was scheduled for 6 p.m. I told the SKNFA specifically, the schedule came out on the 19th of June. I sent an email. Our first game was supposed to be on the 8th of July. I sent an email on the 21st of June indicating to the SKNFA our difficulties. 6 p.m. game start means that the girls are supposed to get to the venue at 5 p.m. We have girls here who finish working at 4, some finish working at 4:30, and others finish working at 5. I told them it's virtually impossible for us to get to the game for 5 p.m. there are a set of time frames where there's a set time for warm up and a set time for different things, a time for you to report to the dressing room for inspection and so on, and all that happens between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. So I had a conversation with Mr. Jamia Claxton, who is the Assistant General Secretary of the SKNFA, and he told me, try and get to the first game, because the SKNFA didn't respond about the time issue. So he told me, try and get to the first game and give the SKNFA some time to work it out. So I said, okay, that sounds fair. It's difficult, but it sounds fair. We went down for the first game. The experience was a horrible one.
And all of the girls, I guess, would not have been present because some would be working.
Yes, some weren't present, but we got there, and we got there maybe about 10 to 6. Also, not 5, 10 to 6. And that was the best we could have done, to have a proper team down there. We got there. The GC, which is the general coordinator, was hurrying us. First off, when you get to the gate, and I'm not bashing the security because they do a really good job, the inspection at the gate is thorough. They inspect every single person coming off of the bus, and they check all bags. So by the time
that takes a lot of time.
Yes. So by the time we got into the dressing room, it was already after 6. We got into the dressing room, the GC was like, "You're already late, you don't have any time to warm up, bam bam." Some of the girls wanted to go outside and just spread their legs. She said we can't leave the dressing room. At one point she indicated that we should warm up in the dressing room, which that's girls having on football boots and tires. It doesn't make any sense. So it was rushed. Tried to talk a bit about the game plan. The referee came in. The referee was also rushing us, quick to do the inspection. Everything was a rush. Everything was just chaotic, and it was disturbing for the girls. Some of the girls even suffered from headaches because of the long trip, coming straight from work, bus drive to Oli, boat ride to St. Kitts, and then long bus drive up to Monkey Hill from the peninsula. Some of the girls were suffering from headaches. When I asked the Red Cross if they had anything for headache, like Morton, they asked me, when was the last time the girls ate? So I asked the girls, and they told me lunchtime, because they would have had lunch. They wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to eat after that. So it was a chaotic experience, and I didn't want to keep putting the girls through that. It's not healthy, and it's not practical for footballers.
And I would assume that you lost that first game.
No, the game actually ended in a draw, and we played against Keyan, who placed 3rd ahead of us last season.
Wow. And
we hadn't beaten Keyan any time for the previous season. So this showed me that this season was going to be a different season for the girls. You know, the start was already a good one. So we went to the first game. I expressed to Jamia the issues we had, and I waited. The second game was 2 weeks away. So we played our first game on the 8th of July, and the second game was on schedule for the 19th. I waited until the 17th of July to see if I would get any information from the SKNFA. I didn't get anything. I sent them another email on the 17th to indicate that the girls will not be available to play at 6 p.m. on the 19th. They sent back an email saying they sent it to the relevant committee, and the competition committee decided that they will not change anything. Wow. And the reason they gave for the change was they said that it would affect game day operations and negatively affect the participating teams. Now that was interesting to me. So I don't want to believe, and this response came in on the 18th. So I sent the email on the 17th, they responded on the 18th. I don't want to believe during the 17th and the 18th, the SKNFA would have contacted all the female teams, and the teams then would have indicated that, you know, it would negatively affect them. So, but anyway, that was the response. We didn't show up on the 19th. I didn't have any other communication from the SKNFA. So our next game was scheduled, I think, for the 29th. So another 10-day period. No communication from the SKNFA. We missed that game as well, still scheduled for 6 p.m. After we missed that game on the 30th, the SKNFA sent an email to say that we missed 2 games, and according to the rules, if we miss a 3rd game without reason, that's what they said in the email, without reason, we would be removed from the fixture.
But you would have provided a reason.
Exactly. So it's as if we didn't have any communication with them. So they said we would be removed from the fixture and reported to the disciplinary committee. That I find was outrageous. We missed so we missed the 2nd game, they sent that. We missed the 3rd game, they sent another email to say that we are removed from the fixture and we will be It's reported to disciplinary committee. Now, interestingly enough, in an email that I sent on, I think it was the 4th of July, prior to the start of the league, I suggested that for the nights that we have single games, Queen City play at 7 p.m. And when they have double header, we play the last game at 8 p.m. So they just had to flip the games. Mm-hmm. And then remember I told you the response was that it would have negatively affect teams and what. After we were removed from the fixture, a single game was scheduled for the said 7 p.m.
Between two
St. teams in St. Kitts. And so I don't know how that did negatively affect anything, but we wanting to play at 7 would negatively affect everything. So unfortunately the girls were only able to play one game this season against Cayenne. They had a good showing. They pulled off a draw, and I'm proud of them. And I hope that the SKNFA really needs to sit down and really work out their position. And I want to say as it pertains to not just Queen City, but as Nevis how it pertains to Nevis. Because Nevis teams are being treated very poorly. And there are teams in St. Kitts, coaches, representatives from different clubs, people from different associations, and people from even overseas who are calling and express their concern about what is happening to Nevis teams as well, and especially the people of Nevis.
So going forward, what do you think can happen? Because it seems to me that there needs to be a sit-down meeting. Maybe NIA officials need to get involved. What are your thoughts in terms of going forward? Not just maybe Jamia, who is a Nevisian and involved with them, but maybe going a little further.
Well, I'm not sure, because for me, I'm a simple person, I'm a logical person. I'm not sure to what extent we need to go to, but I think that this is an easy fix. After we miss the first game on the 19th of July, I wrote an email to the SKNFA asking for a meeting. I never got a response for that email. Okay. And then they had the audacity to send me emails to say that we're missing games without reason. So I really don't know what will have to happen for the SKNFA to show some care for the teams in Nevis. But I don't want it to be a situation where lawyers have to get involved, politicians have to get involved. It's simple. The president of the SKNFA and the secretary of the SKNFA, who, when they were looking for votes, came to Nevis and sat with the clubs and had conversation with the clubs
to get votes.
I think those same people need to come to Nevis or whatever the case and have a meeting and have a conversation and let us put this thing to rest once and for all. Because as you could look behind me, we have representatives from Queen City and Hard Times training together, and they're looking forward to playing football in the SKNFA leagues.
So as far as 2024 goes, that's it for Queen City. You'll be looking forward to next season then, if we could get a fix to this.
Well, yes, based on what has happened, I don't think there's anywhere to salvage this season. So we have to look forward to the next season. And I really hope that there will be some big changes come next season.
But in the meantime, the team continues to train, Hard Times continues to train, and you'll keep the girls basically ready when competition starts.
Definitely. There's also opportunity for some of the girls and some of the fellows to get into national setups, And there's some youth. One of our players recently traveled with the under-15 female team to Trinidad to play some games. So I want to keep them sharp. I want to keep them playing, keep them active. And let me tell you something. I took a little break, and during the break, my phone kept ringing. Girls calling me when we're going to play football again. Boys calling me when we're going to play football again. They want to play. The passion is there. The dedication is there. It's just for the avenue to be provided.
So as we conclude this, we know what the problem is, and definitely you feel that the quick fix would be a meeting between the relevant authorities with the Nevis teams. Your final words as you look into the camera and maybe even talk to the president and whosoever about this situation and possible fixes going forward.
Well, I know the president is one who benefited from football in St. Kitts-Nevis because he was able to go on and play professional football. I don't want it to be a case where we have players here that are good enough to play at the professional level or even at the national level. And the reason that they don't get that opportunity is because the SKNFA run by the president who has benefited from that prevents that from happening. So I want to make a plea to the SKNFA to pull up your socks. Let's have that sit down and let's come to an mutual agreement as to the way forward for football in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, we certainly look forward to a fix to this situation. It's really sad because the president did indicate to me in an interview earlier when he became president that Nevis is certainly high on the agenda of the SKNFA. And certainly what we are hearing is not the way to go. We hope there will be a fix, a permanent fix shortly.
Thank you.
Well, if anything that the Queen City Girls can go by is that